Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Well, guys, I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. Boy, we woke up to, I think, 35 degrees when I looked. It might have been a few degrees cooler. It's like 70 degrees now. Talk about just as fast as it cooled off, it warmed up. But storm clouds are all over now.
Well, you know there was frost on the ground, and then before the day was over, we had some bees waking up from their slumber. It was weird.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is the craziness, and I forget if we were talking about our conversation with David Devine, DAP 2030, and he was just making note of all the people's home gardens that probably got devastated because of this abnormal cold that we had. And now we'll go to an abnormal situation the other way. And these wild swings, they just make it really tough to cope. But hey, we got to be durable in these times. We got to get ourselves situated. I think kind of thinking about doing a new series. Our brother Zach was saying, you guys need to reshare in a concise manner what you've gotten as far as, where there's going to be what challenges, what areas look like safe areas, and go into that again. We had talked about it before, but man, a lot's happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, things change, circumstances change, so it's always good to go over it again.
Absolutely. And again, please do subscribe to both channels so you get all the videos. And, we want to thank everybody that's supporting us over at Patreon. We really couldn't do it without you guys, and also on Ko-Fi as well. Whenever we talk about events like this, Evolutionary is demonetized, so there's no ad revenue there. There's a little ad revenue that comes in from EEARTS, but whenever you talk about the things we're going to talk about, it gets demonetized. So in effect, again, the videos, it's just a labor of love. We want to inform people. We want people to be prepared because, we truly are in a tribulation-like period. And you got to be ready for what's coming. We were talking to family members today and going over again, I do think that we are in the thick of it. I think we are going to have a lot of challenges in the next several years. And, perhaps the most trying time is really going to be 2024, 2025, 2026, in that range. But I think also starting now, it could really kick off at any moment. It's just like, the bubble. It's like blowing a balloon, and you've gone already to the point where you think it might burst, but it just hasn't burst yet, and you're wondering, is this the next little breath, the part that's going to make it go boom?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we just got to kind of watch that. Where's that straw that's going to break the camel's back?
So Eagle Pass, Texas last night, 1,100 migrants in 5 hours, a new record. Yeah, they're pouring in, and if you just look at the headlines, revealed Russians fleeing Putin's war are among the thousands at the U.S. border in Mexico. Russian migrants fleeing the war with Ukraine are seeking asylum in the U.S. They are adding to the massive influx of illegal immigration at the border. Comes right after Supreme Court put a stay on Title 42 until a decision in June. Russian migrant Igor, 24, is fleeing being drafted into the war with Ukraine and thanked President JB for allowing political asylum seekers. The administration continues to insist the southern border is not open. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Russians fleeing from the draft again and Putin's war, as they say, are joining the hundreds of thousands of migrants claiming asylum in the U.S. by the way of Mexico, clustered together with migrants from Moldova, Cuba, and other Central and South American countries. Russian migrants were seen this week claiming asylum in the U.S. amid a massive surge around the holidays. Just think about what we're seeing here, and we want to always hope the best and the best about people and humanity. But you also know that there are powers that are at work here, which, they don't have the best interest of humanity. They don't have the best interests of the migrants themselves or everybody in this country that's already here as well. More than 31,600 migrants have fled Russia to the U.S. since the war. 31,600, right? This includes 12,097 crossings in just a 2-month period over October and November. Can you guys, I know you could read the writing. You can read the writing. Now, I do think, we've covered this, when does the craziness, when does the power start to really go away from the power brokers? It's after the war starts. And when we say the war, the bigger war, we mean the outright, in the open, WW3. It's after that. It's when people realize the death and destruction and the chaos and all that and just refuse. More than just refuse. Because what's going to happen is they're not going to just refuse to go into the war. They're going to overthrow the system from the inside, so to speak. It's when the militaries all of a sudden kind of do an about face and look at the ones that are sending them off to die. That's when the end for the system, for the dark matrix happens.
But we got to kind of watch those things and find your opportunity to make the changes you need for you and your home.
So, the other obvious thing is how many of these Russians are really fleeing the war? How many of them are tools that are going to be used to infiltrate and from the inside open up gates, open up doors, take out infrastructure, take out power, take out water supplies, take out food supplies, from the inside? And how many are already here? And again, it's people being pitted against people, because I don't have anything against any nationality out there. I have nothing personally against any race. Again, we're born where we're born. We actually do, from what Cindy and I's, what we have uncovered is we do choose where we go to incarnate. That's part of the things. We choose when we incarnate. We look at the astrological implications because, again, this is a matrix. This is a holographic reality that we are in that is very real and tangible when you're in it, absolutely. Pain is real, the suffering is real, and all that goes along with that is very real when we're in it. But again, we don't end when the body ends. We go on, and consciousness goes on. And, I've shared with you guys, I do have strong recollections of my past life, the one right before this. And, I was born in St. Petersburg. Well, not in St. Petersburg, but in a little town by St. Petersburg, which is in Russia. But then I know I've also had lives in China, in Tibet, Nepal, in, the Southwest again. So, it's just to point out the fact that you may be an American in this life, but you might have been a Chinese person in the last life, or you might have been a Russian, or maybe an Iranian. Maybe it was a Persian. Maybe it was somebody that was in the Ottoman Empire. The point is, it's humanity being pit against humanity. And the borders, again, are constantly changing. They're always changing. Every century they're changing. So to view it in this light is truly insanity. But at the same time, yes, the controllers are going to start a war, and they're going to use, the nations that are divided to go to battle against other nations. And, this is what's happened. And we've talked about this, there's been really good movies actually done, where they show, I remember one recently we saw where it was covering the life of this one person who was conscripted into the German army, and then another one that was conscripted into the Russian army. And here they are, they're doomed to face each other, and somebody's going to die at some point in time. And, what you learn is they're both just people that are victims of the ones that are moving these pieces on the board.
I know, and that's the part, that recognition part. Once everyone understands that and understands how the pieces are moved, who's moving those pieces, it's like everything's going to change. Everything will change. And I do believe there is going to be some form of a signal that is sent out to humanity, and we are going to feel that truth and we're going to act upon it.
What they're telling us. Okay, so again, from the standpoint that yes, we feel bad for these Russian people that are leaving that situation, and there's always draft dodgers. I don't want to kill anybody for one of these wars. Hell no, hell no. But at the same time, if somebody is gonna shoot your kids and your wife, you're obviously gonna defend yourself, but we have to feel bad for everybody that's just a pawn and a puppet. But the reality is, there most definitely can be people that are fleeing into this country that are also going to actively take part in the war that's going to develop in this country. And when we see these headlines, migrants from Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua processed in record numbers at the U.S. border in 2022, it amazes me that you don't, well, maybe it shouldn't, but, again, if it was a real legit media that we have out there, which we don't, they would put two and two together, Russia, China, Iran, to run joint military drills in Venezuela. Yeah, Iran, Venezuela, and then when we look, we'll find also that there's military agreements between Russia, China, and Nicaragua, and Russia and China and Cuba. Wait a minute, where are these migrants coming from? Well, they're coming from Russia, they're coming from Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. In other words, this is an army coming in here. Hello.
I know, it's pretty yucky to look at.
Yes, and we see this slow train wreck. I mean, this is a slow train wreck. Oh, well, the U.S. plans to expand border expulsions for Cubans, Nicaraguans, and Haitians. This was published 49 minutes ago. It's too late, you guys. Way, way, way too late. They're already in here, and that's the whole point. We'll get around to, expelling the ones that may be enemy combatants, but we just want to make sure they have enough battalions in place.
Indeed.
This is, again, the Trojan horse. And this Trojan horse has been, doing its thing. The gates have been open for a long time. A long time. Now, are you seeing what else is coming? Because I do think 2023, definitely by 2024 and into 2024, but we really feel strongly there's going to be another big lockdown coming. And this lockdown is probably sooner than later. And you can you could read the writing on this wall too. Nearly half of the passengers from China to Milan have the plague upon the land, so says COVID officials. Hong Kong scraps the V pass and testing for the plague upon the land, but you got the U.S. to require negative tests after extremely irresponsible China reopens borders. And Italy is as well, and the EU wants to do the same because they did relax that. But now, now it's going to be selective. Here is the U.S. Embassy and consulates in Japan talking about requirements, by the way, still in place. If you are a non-immigrant, non-U.S. citizen air traveler to the U.S., you're required to be fully you-know-what and to provide proof of you-know-what status prior to boarding a plane that's going to the U.S. Now, that requirement does not apply to U.S. citizens, U.S. nationals, U.S. lawful permanent residents, green card holders, or immigrants. So, you may be able to, again, they have certain exemptions and waivers that are offered. They have details. If you are an emergency traveler who doesn't have timely access to a ouchie, you could be allowed in. just, again, hang on tight. It feels like there's something else coming very shortly. And of course, we all saw what happened with the abnormal storms that came and put the U.S. power grid to a test, and it failed, obviously. Again, the money that's spent on weapons of mass destruction, they want to call it defense, but, again, the invasion hasn't happened. Well, it has happened, but there's no hostile combatants here in the U.S. openly shooting at U.S. citizens at this point in time. There are acts of sabotage. That's been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just a lot of things. A lot of things have been to be delayed when they're not delayed. I mean, everything, their steps are very, very careful. And that's why we have to be careful with ours and make sure we get to where we need to be and lock down and be safe.
And so, the question is, why haven't they done better with the infrastructure? Because it's not part of the plan. And again, they utilize a country, they utilize a people until they have no more need, then they shift and utilize somebody else. And so, again, the power shift is heading towards China, and the U.S. and NATO are going to be left out in the cold and the dark. That writing is clearly on the wall here. And SpaceX launches next-generation Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit. What we got from this was that this is all about Big Brother watching us.
Mm-hmm. It is, and
this is what Cindy got from the guides. This is all going to be about monitoring and watching again, because again, there's so much more in the plans for this huge dystopian one world society that's going to just look identical to what we've seen in China the last several years.
Right. This is only something to, again, so they can advertise exactly what they're doing, but what they're going to be doing is they're going to be watching people very closely.
There's a lot of immune systems that are not functioning properly. And, in reality, this is only going to keep growing. And this is why it's so important to be learning how to boost your immune system, how to detox. We have to do it every single day. And it might sound like a broken record, but yeah, absolutely. Because, we have people dropping left and right, all ages, very young, athletic people. Some of the best athletes in the country and in this world have left this world in the last couple of years. And if they were in such good shape and it can do it to them, well, again, it all depends on some choices that we've made.
I know. So, we really, really harp on it because besides your spiritual practice, it's like the number one most important thing we should be focused on right now.
And so Southwest cancels another 2,500 flights as an atmospheric river pounds the west coast. And this is showing that atmospheric river going on in. This is very, this probably will not last 41 days. But then again, you don't know who's at the controls up there in HARP. And this is the type of conditions that came in and flooded out Sacramento in 1861, 1862 that we were talking about. It was an atmospheric river that didn't move for 41 days. 41 days. It filled the Central Valley in California. This was wild, and it ended up causing them to rebuild Sacramento like 12 to 20 feet higher, 12, I think maybe even to 30 feet in some areas, above where it was. Talk about mud flood, right? So last night, more than 190,000 homes and businesses Pacific Northwest were without power. Outage is now down to 80,000 as of late Wednesday morning. I remember some comments where people were talking about being without power. This is, again, we will do, maybe we have to break it down into a series, a little mini series. Where's the best options to ride out the storm, so to speak, or if you're in a particular things are always changing. Anywhere you go, it's going to be challenging, especially when the volcanoes start going off in the Pacific Northwest. That's going to make a big difference too. Texas refineries could take 2 weeks to fully restore operations after storm. We look to have 10 days of pretty warm weather anyway, albeit a little bit wet. But you never know. I mean, this could be the norm. The Weather Channel was showing much of the country is supposed to be above average temperatures. But, again, we have to wait and see, because we know there are declassified documents that show that weather manipulation is an absolute fact. U.S. pending home sales crashed by the most on record. Existing home sales crashed. New home sales actually rebounded in November, so it leaves pending home sales as the deciding vote on just how apparently dismal the U.S. housing market really is. And the decision is the housing market is in trouble, as pending home sales tumbled 4% month over month versus negative 1%. And October's drop was revised even deeper. Oh, yeah. This is part of what we're just going to see this year. What we've gotten is 2023 is going to be a year of, as far as that economic collapse, it's going to be a slow roll, just a slow, steady build up and roll. This is where many areas you'll start to get used to seeing these digital currencies. We've already gotten used to it a little bit with the whole concept of Bitcoin. And not that Bitcoin or any of the alternatives, I truly don't think there will be any other alternatives out there, at least in certain areas, as far as that goes. I think that was all about really getting people used to the whole concept.
I think so too, for sure.
Yeah, because long term, again, you're going to have to do something more in lines with, if you want to maintain your freedom, Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu. Which is, contributionism, whether we go to a barter and trade scenario, work outside the system, make deals with people that you know. And this is what they don't want. There's no power in it for them. And at some point in time, as is going to become very, very evident, some localities are going to break totally away. I think you are going to see counties leaving states, states leaving unions, nations collapsing and then being totally restructured. We're in for a wild, wild ride.
Yes, we are. Hang on tight.
So again, as much as you can do what you can do to make yourself as self-sufficient as possible, that's got to really be one of the prime goals. And look at this. Unitree Go 1 is a new generation robot dog that can reach speeds of 17 kilometers an hour. With adaptive joints and intelligent side follow system, mass testing event. Now, these guys are small, but still, there was a sci-fi series, The War of the Worlds, and it was little guys like this that were out there, and they had lasers mounted on their back, and they were just looking for any humans that were left, basically, to zap. Well, we've seen things like this, but the size of a tank. We saw 4 of them on a tractor trailer in Nevada. More than likely, going to Nellis Air Force Base. The size of a tank, just like this, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, except they were really made to look very frightening. The metal was thick on them. It just looks so intimidating.
Exactly. And this is that next level. When humanity wakes up and says no more, this is that next level that the controllers will go to. Speaking of the controllers, did you hear about that new band out there, the Parasites?
They're doing such a good job. Yay.
Yeah, parental advisory is recommended. Yes, let's send them on the first flight over to Mars. Oh, now this is just adorable. This is really what humanity wants. We just want to, for the most part, most people just want to have simple lives and enjoy their family, enjoy their kids, enjoy their pets, enjoy their loved ones, the simple pleasures in life. Isn't it adorable? And get out and spend time with nature, because the more you love nature, the more nature will love you.
And that statement's about as true as truth can get.
Absolutely. So once again, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without you guys. We look forward to your comments. We try to read as many as we possibly can and respond where we could. Much love to you and yours. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.